Here's a couple of scopes I'm going to look at for a friend who just brought them over not long ago. He's had these in his possession for many years but hasn't used them. He's not sure how well they work, so I'm going to do a quick test evaluation, maybe a cleanup. This one I believe he said he actually built. This is the Heath kit. Dual trace model 10-4550. Looks like it's a 15 megahertz scope. This other one is a Tektronix 475. It's got this little nice digital multimeter right on top of it built in. So we'll get both these cleaned up. And I was going through my parts and I noticed I had an old dusty cover, Tektronix cover, that looks like it's going to fit that scope. So I'll go ahead and, as a bonus, give this to him after I clean it up, and he'll have a cover for his scope to keep it nice and clean after I clean it up. Now here's the guts of the Heath kit scope. Looks like it was assembled very well. It's a little bit of rust back here in the power supply section. The capacitors look bulged. And so what I did is just took some contact cleaner and cleaned up all of the pots and wafer switches and stuff like that, just to get this guy up and running again and stable. Now it's got a little bit of a twist to the, turn this backlight off. A little bit of a twist to the scale there. The graticule. I didn't see an adjustment internally on the scope, so I think what you might actually have to do is rotate the CRT on this one. And I don't have the assembly instructions, so I don't want to really mess with that. But so maybe I'll have the builder kind of take a look at that if he's interested in getting it exactly level. But outside of that, it looks like it's accurate on the scale. There's that's 2 volts. It's a 2-volt signal coming off my old Tektronix here. Just feeding it over, and it's reading right at 2 volts. And then the internal calibrator seems to be pretty accurate too. So put that on. That's 1 volt peak to peak. It's 500 millivolts, so it should be 2 divisions. And it's just about right. So yeah, the only thing I can see wrong is just the twist of the CRT, and I don't know if that's a real concern of the owner. But I will go ahead and button this one up and say that it's looking pretty good. And then we'll take a look at this Tektronix over here. Alright, over on the Tektronix 475, I'm just trying putting a signal in on both channels from my 541A, and the reason I like this is it has an adjustable calibrated output. So I'm just running the signal over, and I'm noticing that occasionally I'll get one of these spots where I get that kind of signal, and I'll go back and forth and get it to come in, you know. So I think in there it kind of works. Yeah, it's a little ratty looking. So I think this is dirty, that switch back there. So before I get too far, I'm going to go ahead and pull the covers off this and try cleaning off all the controls and see if that solves a lot of the kind of intermittent problems that this is having. And that's the next step. Alright, after pulling the scope out of the case, I discovered that these controls right here that I was having some issues with are this style of a little barrel down there that rotates against different contacts. I'm not really sure how it works, but I think you have to completely dismantle this section here to even get to anything, and I don't think there's anything to clean, any contacts to clean on this style of switch. So since that's the only problem I was having with this, I'm going to put it back together and check it out on both sine and square wave and see how it works. Everything else was working, the delay trigger and everything, so I'll do a cursory look inside here and see if I see anything smoked or blown out, or check capacitors, but looks like it's in really good shape. Everything looks really good. I don't see any swelled capacitors. Here's the DMM right up here with its little case off. And I like this on-off switch. It just runs a little shaft down here to a regular old toggle switch. It's pretty ingenious. I guess it works. Yeah, this thing is beautifully put together, just like some of the old vintage Tektronix that I have. But very compact, not as easy to work on because it's really jammed in there. Really pretty heavy for its size. So I'm going to put it back in the case and we'll try it out again. Okay, this seems to be working now. I was having trouble on the 10 millivolts, 0.1 volts, and 1 volt. All of those versions, all of those, I guess that has some common circuitry, but now it seems to be working. And it was it's working at higher frequencies but not lower frequencies, but now that seems to be working too. So it's just contacts that just hadn't been played with in 20 years and just needed to be exercised, but it seems to be working now. So this thing's 100%. It's time to button it up and send it back to its owner.